Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for joining. And we are continuing our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the Bhakti Vaibhav session. And currently we are in chapter number 6. Chapter number 6 is what? Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्यम् ईश्वरम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयं मुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अधपत्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपः कुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Chapter 6, Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. So, in this chapter, in the beginning of the chapter, Vyasadeva had heard about the birth and activities of Narada Muni, but he was curious what happened to Narada Muni after the Bhakti Vedantas instructed Narada Muni. So he asked Narada Muni, how did you pass your time after initiation and how did you attain this body as Narada? So he tells also that generally time destroys everything. Time destroys our memory of past birth and everything. So he asks, how did you remember what happened to you in the previous day of Brahma? So long ago, right? So in the previous day of Brahma, whatever happened to you, how do you remember that today? So that was his question. Now Narada, he speaks about his childhood that he learned from the Bhakti Vedantas and later they left. Okay, after the Chaturmas they left, and his mother was a simple maidservant, and they had just each other. Narada Muni and his mother, they were just there for each other. His only shelter and life was his mother. But then one day, when she went to milk a cow, she was bitten by a snake and she had to die. So, how did Narad Muni respond to this? He took it as a special mercy of the Lord. So, this was his response. And he thought the Lord always desires only well for his devotees. He only desires good for his devotees. So, thinking like that, he takes this reversal as a benediction and he started for the north. Okay. Then he travels through different places. So he traveled through many towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, and so on. And we have to see what happened next. So this is text number 14. Parishranta indriya atmaham trit parito bhubhukshitah snatva pitva hradhe nadya upasprushto gatashrama. Translation, someone, if anyone can read.
Hare Krishna. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river, lake, and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't share the link on the group. I forgot about it. So thank you, Kirtida Mataji. Mm, Yeah. Okay. So, thus travel, like Ishwar Krishna Prabhu read the translation, he said that Narada Muni, he traveled, right? In the previous verse already he mentioned how he traveled through various places. So obviously because of these travels, he was thirsty and he was hungry. And what does a sannyasi do? A sannyasi doesn't have a place to call home, right? He doesn't have a constant place of shelter and a constant place where he can eat. There's no boarding lodging system for a sannyasi. So he just takes shelter of Mother Nature. So he takes bath in a river or a lake, and he also takes water from there, and he gets relief from his exhaustion. Whenever he is hungry, he lives like the life of a mendicant. So if someone gives some prasadam, he eats it. And wherever he gets water from a lake, he drinks it. And under the trees, he sleeps and he takes shelter. So, this is the nature of a mendicant. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport a traveling mendicant can meet the needs of body, which is thirst and hunger, just by the gifts of nature. Some sannyasis, they live in forests and they can get fruits and tubers to satisfy their hunger, while others, they go from they just accept something that comes of their own accord. People see some sadhu and they go and give some food. So, like this, Prabhupada mentions that even without being a beggar at the door of householders, a sannyasi can maintain himself. Because ultimately, it is Krishna who's maintaining every living entity, and nature is abundant with gifts to take care of all living entities. If nature can feed an elephant that eats 100 tons of food, then where is the question of not feeding a human being who just eats a little bit of food, a few handful of food? So, like this, Prabhupada says, a mendicant therefore does not go to the house of a householder to beg from him, but rather, if a mendicant goes to the house of a householder, it is mainly to enlighten him spiritually. That is the focus of great renunciants like Narada Muni in this case. Text number 15. तस्मिन्निर्मनुजे अरण्ये पिप्पलोपस्थ आश्रित आत्मानात्मानम् आत्मस्थं यथा श्रुतम् अचिन्तयम्. Translation.
After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls.
Very nice, thank you. So, as we mentioned in the previous verse, also, whenever they wanted to take shelter, they would take shelter under trees. And he started moving to different places. He even went to a forest. And generally, yogis, when they want to meditate, also, they take shelter under a tree. So now Narada Muni, he had already learned the art of meditation from the Bhakti Vedantas. And he chose a beautiful pippala tree or a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest. And it was a very serene atmosphere for him so that he could meditate on the super soul who's within. How did he meditate? He used his intelligence as he had learned it from the liberated souls. Okay. So Prabhupada says, first and foremost thing, a person who wants to meditate should not meditate according to his personal whims. We should not do meditation according to our whims and fancies. So one should perfectly know well from the authoritative scriptures and through a transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master how to get trained using our intelligence in the process of meditation on the super soul. So here Narada was actually practicing bhakti only, but it had some principles of yoga or dhyana in the practice. Okay, so it is actually called as Yoga Mishra Bhakti. The principle is Bhakti, but then there are some elements of yoga, which is meditation on the super soul. Now, this process was taught to him by the Bhakti Vedantas. So he was following the process as it was taught to him by his spiritual superiors and as it is given in the scripture. So Prabhupada is warning us today it has become a fancy. Suddenly we see some YouTube shorts or we hear something very fancy from somebody and we think we can start meditation according to our own whims and fancies. People like to do some Kundalini yoga and all that, and then they get into more trouble because it should not be done without proper guidance. So we hear so many stories of how some Kundalini got awakened and their health actually it went into some other issues, multiple other issues. So we should be very careful. The consciousness is firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered devotional service unto the Lord by carrying the orders of a spiritual master. So, Narada Muni was one such devotee who had contacted a bona fide spiritual master. He had served them sincerely and he got the correct kind of enlightenment. So, he was following Guru Parampara properly and he was guided properly. So, according to the perfect guidance that he received, this Narada Muni, he began to meditate nicely on what? On the super soul who is present in everybody's heart. Okay, so that is the verse. Now, we will move ahead. Just wanting to open. Yep, okay. So this particular, did we go to 15? Yeah, we were in 15. Okay, we'll go to 16 now. 16, I wanted to read some more interesting information, 16 and 17. So 16 and 17, these two verses are very important because this talks about what really happened with Narad Muni's meditation. How did he see the super soul? How did he get the glimpse of Krishna? All that is mentioned in these two verses. So these two verses are somewhat important. They are turning points in his life. ध्यायतश्चरणाम्भोजं भावनिर्जितचेतसा औत्कण्ठ आश्रु कलाकक्षया हृदि आसीन्निषणैर्हरि. Anybody wants to read the translation?
Can I
I
read,
can read.
Mataji?
Sorry, Mataji, go ahead, please.
Mataji.
Isha.
As soon as I began to meditate, sorry, okay. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. Krishna Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So the verse is Dhyayata Charanamboja. What did he meditate on? He meditated on the lotus feet of the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because he was meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, his mind was transformed in transcendental love. The word used is Bhava Nirjita. Okay, it was filled with transcendental love of God. And the mental activities, he says, were his thinking, willing, and feeling, his cheshta, okay, so he says, as soon as I began to meditate on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead with my mind transformed in transcendental love, his mind was transformed and he started exhibiting different symptoms of ecstasy. What happened? Ashrukala. There were tears flowing from his eyes. So, first thing, his mind, his intelligence was transformed. He developed transcendental love. And because of the development of transcendental love, tears started flowing from his eyes, which is a symptom of ecstasy. And soon, without much delay, very soon, gradually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of his heart. Okay, so this is a very, very beautiful verse that talks about how Narada Muni got the darshan of the Lord. Now, he says, I began to meditate in the mind, in his hridi, in the mind, cheshta, in his mind, conquered by bhava nirjita. Bhava nirjita means love of God, prema. Okay, so step by step, he started meditating on the Lord, and gradually the Lord appeared in his mind. And when we say in his mind, cheshta, that was the word used, right? The Lord appeared in his mind. His mind was purified and the Lord appeared. Now, what does that mean? It means that the Lord appeared through his nose, ear, and eye. That's what the commentators say. So when we say the mind, there are three functions of the mind. The mind, one can perceive the Lord through one's nose, ear, and eye. So how is the Lord perceived? The first perception of the Lord before you see him is through the nose. You can smell the fragrance of the Lord. Then you can hear the ankle bells of the Lord. And then you get to see the Lord. So when the verse says that through his mind, see here, meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of God, my mind transformed in transcendental love. So when he has come to that point of prema and he is getting a vision of the Lord, what is happening is that the Lord is appearing through his senses, which is the mind. Now, the mind consists of perceiving the Lord through one's nose, the ear, and the eye. So, Narada Muni could experience the fragrance of his body, Krishna's body. Then he could hear the sound of Krishna's ankle bell, and then he could see the beauty of Krishna's face. And once he had darshan, his senses became, he was able to see Krishna face to face. What happens because of that prema? He started developing symptoms of ecstasy. So, what is the symptom of ecstasy that is mentioned here? Tears started rolling down his eyes. He was completely enamored or moved by seeing the beauty of the Lord that he was perceiving in his prema stage. Actually, it's prema because here we see the word is bhava nirjita. It is filled with bhava. So it is at the point of prema. So now, purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions the word bhav is significant. That means he has already attained the bhav stage, and only after the bhav stage one can attain the prema stage. Okay, but to attain the bhav stage, one has to have some transcendental affection for the Lord. So a person goes through different stages. You all know this: adhav shraddha, tata sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, and so on. So the first initial stage is called as Shraddha. Shraddha is some sort of faith. It's having some faith. Second is to associate with devotees of the Lord. The third stage is to practice the prescribed rules and regulations of devotional service. Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajana Kriya. Then what happens? One dispels all the misgivings, that is anartha nivriti. These misgivings, they are hampering our progress in devotional service. So a person goes on to anartha nivriti, and then once these anarthas are removed, there is standard faith and transcendental matter, which is nishtha, very firm faith, very, very firm faith in transcendental matter. Then that person's ruchi, asakti, all that comes, and finally that person goes to the stage of bhava, and then he goes to the point of unalloyed love of Godhead, which is prema. So the different stages a person goes through is mentioned in this purport. Now, All the above different stages are but different stages of development in transcendental love. So, what happened to Narada Muni? He was surcharged with transcendental love and he started showing Ashtasattvic Vikar. That is the different symptoms of ecstasy, of which one is shedding tears. So, tears was flowing from his eyes as an automatic reaction, and it was actually very, very possible for Narada Muni. Prabhupada says Sri Narada Muni in his previous birth attained that stage very quickly after his departure from home. Very soon, it didn't take him much time. He was practicing strictly as he was instructed. And very soon, he came to the point of bhav and he was developing these symptoms of ecstasy. So, it was quite possible for him to perceive the actual presence of the Lord, which he tangibly experienced by his developed spiritual senses without a material tinge. So, to perceive Krishna, your senses should be spiritualized. Beneath your blunt senses, you also have spiritual senses. So, the spiritual senses are awakened at a much advanced stage, especially when you are ready to perceive the Lord. Okay, so he was able to see Krishna, who's beyond the perception of blunt senses, with the help of his spiritual senses that were awakened because of his staunch practice. So, this was a very beautiful verse of Narada Muni getting darshan of Krishna. And at what point did he get darshan? He got darshan at the point of prema, okay, and darshan only once, at the point of prema, and because of which he started exhibiting different symptoms of ecstasy, beginning with shedding tears. Satyam Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Mataji, I have a quick question here. So it is mentioned that Narad Muni saw the Lord in his heart, lotus feet. I mean, in his lotus heart. So it's not like physically Lord came and gave him darshan, or it's just it's just realizing like those.
Yeah, it was within.
Sorry, Mataji.
Yeah. Yeah, it was within. It was not external. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So
Yes,
that's
Prabhu.
not like Paramatma real, right? But it's like a real. He can close his eyes and see the Lord.
Yeah. That's how it
Okay.
is. Then you can close your eyes and see the Lord. Yeah. So that person starts perceiving in his meditation. He's able to perceive the fragrance of the Lord. He's able to hear the ankle bells of the Lord, and he's able to see the Lord. And he sees the beauty of the Lord. He gets darshan of the Lord. Yeah. Yeah, it's a
Thank you.
very, yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay. So continuing, what happened to him? Premathi bhara nirbhinna pulakango अंतिनिवृतः आनन्दसम्प्लवे लीना नापश्यम् उभयं मुने. Translation, can you read?
O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord.
Yeah, so every part of his body was separately enlivened. Why? Because he was overwhelmed with happiness. He was in the stage of prema. So his limbs, they were covered with goosebumps. Okay, like these are all different symptoms of ecstasy. Because of excessive prema, not only was his eyes watering, but his body was covered with goosebumps, and all the limbs, they were exhibiting symptoms of prema at the same time. So this is very difficult to bear. That's what the commentators say. It is not easy. That's why only you can hold on only to some level. That's why the Lord doesn't give darshan again and again, because in this sadhaka deha only so much is possible. So it was very difficult for him to bear these symptoms of ecstasy, and because of this he faints out of bliss. He just faints and he's not able to see himself nor the Lord. He's not able to see the self or the Lord. So everything is gone because he was not able to handle the kind of ecstasy that he was feeling. And Prabhupada in the purport, he says, spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies are not at all like mundane experiences of this world. And it is very difficult to speak about it in words. It is very difficult to give an expression to such feelings. So he says we can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Narada Muni. Narada Muni is just trying to describe this a little bit to Vyasadeva. We can just get an idea of how it is. Actually, each and every part of his body or his senses, they have particular function. But then, after seeing the Lord, these senses become so awakened to render service to the Lord because in the liberated stage of the body, they are every part of the body is enlivened just to serve the Lord. Okay, so it is very difficult to explain. I mean, Narada Muni is trying his best to explain, but then he's saying every sense was enlivened and it was hankering to be engaged in the service of the Lord. And one sense was competing with the other, and there was an overwhelming feeling of bliss in the presence of the Lord, and all the senses fighting with each other to serve the Lord. So that's why, he was developing these symptoms of crying and goosebumps and fainting and all of that. So Prabhupada is telling, as such, the transcendental ecstasy, it so happened that the senses became separately enlivened just to serve the Lord. So they were all competing to serve the Lord. And he lost himself. He just lost himself in seeing himself and the Lord simultaneously. He was able to see the self, he was able to see the Lord, and he just fainted. He just couldn't handle it anymore. So, yeah, we can only hear in words how all this is. Anyway, and he continues to say his feelings. He says, Rupam Bhagavato Yattan Manakantam Shuchapaham Apashyan Sahasotaste Vaiklavad Durmanayiva. Translation, someone?
The
Hare Krishna.
transcendental form. Okay. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
No, Prabhu, go ahead.
The
Transcendental
transcendental
form of the Lord.
form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So he saw this very, very beautiful form of the Lord, and he was extremely enlivened. All the desires were satisfied, and but it was not there for too long. It just went. He just had a glimpse of that beautiful form, and he lost that form. So as soon as he lost that form, because he also fainted and he couldn't see anything, he simply lost that form in ecstasy. He suddenly got up and he was so perturbed because imagine if a person who's a very poor person suddenly gets a lot of wealth. He just sees that wealth and that wealth has suddenly vanished from his eyes. How will he feel? So, like that, Narada Muni, he got this greatest of all wealth, which is seeing the Lord face to face, getting the full darshan of the Lord. But then the Lord suddenly vanished and he felt like as if he lost something that is the most desirable. Here, Prabhupada mentions very emphatically that we can see that the verse says the transcendental form of the Lord. It is Rupam. So, Rupam Bhagavato Yattan Manakantam Shuchapaham. So, it is the Rupam of the Lord that Narada Muni saw, which means this is here to confirm that the Lord is not formless. The form of the Lord was experienced by Narada Muni. His form is transcendental. It is not like any material form. It is different from all the forms in our material experience. So we see various forms in our material experience, but the form of the Lord is not like anything we see in this material world. We often say Krishna is bluish black, but that bluish black is not even of this material world. That is a transcendental color. It is so difficult. We say Krishna is as beautiful as a lotus, but what is a lotus? A lotus is nothing. It is, after all, a material thing of this world. Krishna, he is so many thousand and million times more beautiful than or softer than a lotus. He says, Prabhupada says, for the whole duration of our life, we go on seeing all such various forms in the material world, but none of them can truly satisfy our mind and the way the Lord's form can satisfy our mind. This is seen in Narada's case. Narada, he has seen so many things of this world, right? Like each one of us, every second, we are seeing so many different forms around us. But if something is going away from our vision, are we getting perturbed? Are we crying that something went away from our vision? No. But however, here we see Narada Muni, he was so perturbed that this transcendental form of the Lord vanished in front of his eyes. Even the gopis of Vrindavan, they always curse Brahma. They say, Brahma, why did you create eyelids? Because even for a split second, we cannot bear the separation from seeing the form of the Lord. We continuously want to see the form of the Lord. So that is the nature of the transcendental form of the Lord. So we say that Narada Muni, he was so desperate after he lost the form of the Lord. He wanted to see the form of the Lord again and again. So we can understand the form of the Lord is completely transcendental. He definitely has a form, and this form is not like anything that is there in this material world. Prabhupada says, as spiritual beings, we all have eternal relationship with this beautiful form of the Lord. And life after life, we are actually searching that form of the Lord. And we are not satisfied by seeing any other form. That is our real problem, we are taking so many births, we are seeing so many things, but nothing is satisfying us. Actually, every living entity is searching after that beautiful form of the Lord. And Narada Muni, he was very fortunate. He got a glimpse of the Lord. But then what happened? The form of the Lord vanished. So he became very perturbed and he got up and he opened his eyes and he was trying to search for the Lord everywhere. And losing sight of him, he was in great shock and he began to lament. But then, now that he saw the Lord and he lost the form of the Lord, what would a person do? It is automatic reaction, right? You see a very beautiful form, you have lost the form in front of you. What will you do if you have lost it? You will attempt to try to see that form again. That is what you would do, and that is what Narada Muni also did. So that is text number 19. Didrakshustad aham bhuya pranidhaya manohridi vikshamano apina pashyam avitripta ivatura. Translation.
I desire to see again the I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him any more, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. Hare Krishna Mata.
So he tried again. Pranidhaya. Pranidhaya means to again and again concentrate your mind. That is the method he followed. He tried to concentrate his mind, and that way he got the darshan of the Lord. So now again, artificially, he was trying. I'm going to follow the method again. I'm again going to concentrate on the form of the Lord and I will see the Lord. So he tried again and again. Bhuya pranidhaya. Again he tried. Why did he try again? Because didrukshu, he wanted to see that form that he had seen. He didn't want to lose that form. We do that too, right? When we have some nice dream. I don't know if you all have tried, many of you must have. You have a nice dream, you have seen something very nice, and you wake up. Hmm? You feel, oh, why did I wake up? I wish I could have seen this dream a little more. And then forcibly you try to sleep, trying to catch up with that dream. I want to dream again. I want to go back to that episode, what I was dreaming of, and I want to have a better experience. I want to finish that experience. And you try hard. I want to go back to the same dream, but it's not easy. You will not go back to the same dream. Your sleep will get spoiled and you'll wake up. So artificially, it is very difficult to get back and continue your dream. Sometimes you can. I've had some experiences of continuing, but it won't go the way you desire it to. But something else will happen. But this artificial process is not easy. That is the point that I'm trying to make. So, so he, huh?
How much TV there?
So he desired to see that form again. And Prabhupada says in the purport that actually there is no mechanical means of seeing the form of the Lord. How do we see the Lord? Now, if Narada Muni got a glimpse of the Lord, of course, yes, he followed according to what the Bhaktivedantas taught him. He followed the rules and regulations of Shastra, everything. He did everything to the point. But then, just by our own attempts, can we see the Lord? We cannot see the Lord unless the Lord desires to bestow his causeless mercy upon us and reveal himself to us. We cannot see the Lord. In the Ramayana, Hanuman. Hanuman was trying hard to go and find Sita. He was searching for Sita in so many different places, and he would get into depression. Valmiki Ramayana mentions. Imagine our Hanuman, who is Manojava Marutulya Vegam, and we look forward to him because he's Buddhir Bhalam Yashodhairyam. He gives us mental strength, and people pray to him. That Hanuman got into depression. Valmiki says, because he was simply not able to find Sita. He tried finding Sita in so many different places, but he couldn't see her. But then he offers a prayer at one point in time. He offers a prayer to Sita, Ram, Lakshman, and all the deities and everything. And he prays to Sita specifically. The commentators say that because he prayed to Sita to reveal herself to him. Because without she revealing herself, how can he see her? It is not possible. The same thing applies to all of us. We are all in various ways trying to, we think that we can, through some mechanical process, see the Lord, but it is not possible. It is not possible unless by the causeless mercy of the Lord decides to reveal himself to us. And how will the Lord reveal himself to us? When he sees our sincerity, when he sees that we are trying to develop some love for him, when he sees that we are following the instructions of the spiritual master, we are practicing very sincerely, then the Lord will reveal himself to us. By no mechanical process can we actually see the Lord. Praladananda Prabhu, would you like to add?
Mata Dandat Madam, there is very nice slok in this connection in Katha Upanishad, where it says, Naya Matma Pravachane Labhyo na Medhya na Bahuna Suten. Then it says, Ya Eves Vrunute Tena Labhya, Tasya Atma Vivrunute Tanum Swan. Means he selects, then only he will reveal. So, it's all on our part to qualify, and then he selects us. So this was a
Correct.
kind of sharing that
Very-
one.
Thank you so much, Praladananda Prabhu. That was very nice. Thank you. Yeah, so we should wait for the opportune moment and go on discharging your prescribed duty in devotional service. Narada Muni thought that the Lord could be seen again by the same mechanical process which was successful in his first attempt. But in spite of his endeavor, he could not make his second attempt successful. So he can try. All of us can try by different mechanical means. But just because the Lord revealed himself once, it doesn't mean that he's obliged to reveal himself to us. The atheists, they challenge, oh, I cannot see God, so God doesn't exist. But then Prabhupada asks, do you have the eyes to see God? Hmm. You should first have Premanjana Chorita. You should have the salve of devotion in your eyes to see God. But even then, just because you developed some prema, can you see Lord? No, that is the first step. But then the Lord has to reveal Himself to us. So if He decides to reveal Himself, then we can see Him. He says the Lord is completely independent of all obligations. He's not obliged to reveal himself to you, right? Who are we at the end of the day? So if he wants to give mercy, if he wants to reveal, he will reveal. So and of course, it is true that if there is a devotee who has a lot of love and affection, with that love and affection, the Lord becomes obliged actually. Uh, but again, he is ultimately Swarat. He knows when he wants to reveal himself to us. But he's not visible or perceivable by our blunt material senses. So when he decides to reveal himself, we perceive him through our spiritual senses. So Prabhupada says, when he pleases, being satisfied with the sincere attempt of devotional service, depending completely on the mercy of the Lord, then he may be seen out of his own accord. So it is his own accord that we get to see him. So by no mechanical means can one try to see God. This was seen in the life of Narada Muni. He could see the Lord once, he could not see him again. Yeah. So it's very interesting. Actually, I was just thinking how fortunate we are. We get to see the Lord whenever we want, out of our own accord, yeah, in the deity form in the temple, right? That is such a beautiful thing. Or deities in our house. Krishna is very merciful. Though we don't see him face to face, but again, he's non-different from the deity form. So we have so many blessings. There are so many blessings we can count on in this time and age, and we take it for granted. That is very unfortunate. I'm talking about myself. Yeah, we all desire to see the Lord face to face, and we think, oh, it'll never happen to us. But then we forget that we have deities at home. They are really present in front of us, and every second we have the opportunity to see them. Yeah. So anyway, we'll move on. But then what happened to Narada Muni? Huh? He tried, he kept trying. He wanted to see, but he couldn't see. So to stop Narada Muni's attempts, let's see what happened after this. Evam yatantam vijane mam aha gocharo giram gambira shlakshnaya vacha shucha prashammayanniva. Translation.
Seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of the Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words just to mitigate my grief.
So Narada Muni, he was in a lonely place. Where in that forest? Remember, he went to that forest under a pippala tree. He was doing meditation. So he tried to endeavor in that lonely place. And when he was trying to endeavor like this and he was failing, at that time, the Lord, being very compassionate, he began to speak to him. So it's a very nice word-to-word meaning if you see this verse. It says, Agocharaha. Agocharaha means the Lord who's beyond the range of physical sound. Agochara Giram. Okay, so he's beyond the range of physical sound perception. So that is one of the names of the Lord. But he who is beyond that, with a gambhira voice, with a very grave voice, he began to speak to Narada Muni to mitigate the grief that Narada Muni was having. Why was he grieving? Because he was unable to again see the form of the Lord. So the Lord is very merciful. So he began to speak to him. The Lord is beyond the description of words. He is Giram Agocharaha. This is also stated in the Shrutis, in the Upanishads, Taittiriya Upanishad. It is mentioned the Lord cannot be within the frame of mundane sound vibrations. So the Lord who cannot be approached by words comes and speaks to Narada Muni. This is very interesting. And Narada, he had this bhakti from Vaidhi sadhana. He was doing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. And first, remember in 2 verses before, he perceived the fragrance of the Lord and he could hear the ankle bells of the Lord. And he could also he could see the Lord. Now, there are other things also that happened to him. He can also experience the taste and touch of the Lord. Okay, this taste and touch, however, doesn't happen when you're doing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti in a in the sadhana stage in your body, physical body that you have here. You should develop a siddha deha, that is perfection. Remember, even when we were talking about prema, we said that the infant prema alone is experienced in a sadhaka deha, but the full-fledged prema is experienced in a siddha deha. Similarly, you can experience the smell, the sound. If you can smell the fragrance of the Lord, you can hear his ankle bells, you can see him. All this you can get in the sadhaka deha, but then the touching the Lord, feeling the touch of the Lord, and taste. Taste is again tasting the lips, nectar of the lips of the Lord. All this will be experienced only in the Siddha Deha, in the future body of Narada Muni, only in the perfected body. But however, just by hearing the words, he already heard the ankle bells, right? Like that, just by hearing the words of the Lord, that removed all kinds of lamentation that Narada Muni had at this point in time because of not seeing the Lord. Was not able to see again, but just by hearing, that mitigates his grief and he felt satisfied. So this is very, very beautiful experience of Narada Muni that he's having. And here in the purport, Prabhupada talks about a few things. He says, of course, in the Vedas, we saw Taittiriya Upanishad says that the Lord is beyond the approach of mundane words and intelligence. But then it's only by His causeless mercy that we can have any spiritual senses to perceive Him, either hear Him or speak to Him or whatever. All this is only possible by the inconceivable energy of the Lord when He decides to bestow His mercy. The Lord was very, very pleased with Narada. And that's why He gave the strength to Narada so that Narada could hear what the Lord wanted to tell him. However, it is not possible to perceive directly the touch or the taste of the Lord during the probationary stage of regulative devotional service, Prabhupada mentions. So you cannot perceive, you cannot go and touch the Lord. You cannot get that experience in the sadhaka deha. So, but however, he could hear the Lord. So this was a very special gift that was bestowed on Narada. So when he heard the pleasing words of the Lord, to some extent, at least for the time being, his grief was meditated. He felt at least the Lord is reciprocating. He's hearing my prayer. He's trying to console me. So like this, the devotee, he always feels separation from the Lord. Always, always. And especially a little bit now, see what Krishna did to Narad Muni. He gave a little glimpse and then he ran away. How much hankering now Narada Muni will have. His anchoring would increase more and more. A devotee in love with God feels always the pangs of separation and is therefore always enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy. The more and more he hankers for the Lord, the more ecstatic feelings Narada Muni has. The same thing when we talk about the gopis, we talk about love in separation. But then that love in separation, they are feeling a kind of bliss which is very difficult to explain. It is like eating a hot sugar candy. So when you eat a sugar candy, which is hot, meaning not spicy, but temperature hot. What happens? Your tongue is getting burnt. Externally, your tongue is getting burnt, but then you're feeling the sweetness. So you just can't stop eating it. It is so sweet and so nice, you can't stop eating it. So, similarly, internally, they are feeling a kind of bliss in the transcendental ecstasy in separation, the gopis. So, they continue to experience it, but externally, it appears like as if they are burning down. So that's how every devotee feels when he comes to this point and he's got this, and the Lord comes, gives him darshan, and then vanishes. He feels the pangs of separation. But even in the pangs of separation, he's enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy. Sindhu Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji. This section was very, very beautiful. I feel like hearing more and more, although we don't have any experience about it, right? I had one question. When you said you cannot feel the touch of the Lord, is it only for Krishna?
Why it is for any form of Vishnu. Why not?
Then Prahlad Maharaj was, when Narsingadev came, he picked him up and put him on his lap. And for Dhruv Maharaj, he touched through the conch shell, right?
When you are trying to experience the Lord, okay, you feeling the touch and the taste of the Lord doesn't come in the sadhaka deha. That is the complete experience of the touch of the softness of the Lord. The complete experience is not sadhaka deha. That's the understanding. I don't know how it is, but at least here in this case, in Narada Muni's meditation, it was not possible. He was able to hear, he was able to do all this, but then Chakravarti Path says, for him to touch, experience the feeling of the touch of the softness of Krishna's body, a transcendental body, impossible.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
See, when the Lord is coming in person and doing pastimes, the ball game is totally different. When Krishna is and he's performing pastimes with his associates, obviously his associates are touching him, there's no doubt about it, right? Yeah. So, but then we are talking about a case where the yogi or the devotee is trying to experience the Lord. Okay? In his experience, sadhaka deha, there is limited experience.
Thank you, Mataji. That makes sense.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mataji. So now, what did the Lord say? Yeah, he in a Gambhira voice he spoke, but then what did he say? That's what we're going to see in the next verse, which is 21. Hantasmin janmani bhavan mamam drashtum miharati avipakva kashayanam durdasho aham kuyoginam. This is what he says. Anybody wants to say what he said? Translation.
Oh,
Narada,
the Lord spoke.
Lord's
I regret that during the lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me.
So he tells in a very, very grave voice, I'm so sorry, you can't see me again. You can't see me anymore. Why? Because avipakva, you are immature, meaning your prema at this stage cannot become mature. It will be in infant stage only because in a sadhaka deha, that's why the Lord is saying you cannot see me. And kashayanam, and he says kuyoginam, incomplete in service. So this is, you should understand, again, Prabhupada confirms this in the purport, and our acharyas also mentioned, here the Lord is not chastising him, saying that you're an immature boy and you have dirtiness in your service. That's not what the Lord is trying to tell. The Lord is trying to tell him that actually you're a great sadhaka. Narada, he had no material desires. He was already on the level of prema. If you're on the level of prema, that means you do not have material desires. But then the Lord was telling this to do two things. two reasons why the Lord was talking like this. One is he wanted to increase the humility of the sadhaka. So for us to become an eternal associate of the Lord, our humility should be so high. High. Actually, humility means low, but it should be nicely developed. One should be extremely humble. Otherwise, one cannot really get rid of this body and attain the spiritual world. One's humility should be fully blossomed. Okay, so he wanted to increase the humility of Narada. Why? Because only a perfectly humble person can actually experience the Lord. If there is no humility, Krishna will not be obliged to reveal himself to us, right? So he wanted to increase the humility. Not that Narada was not humble, he was extremely humble. But then by telling like this would increase the humility of Narada. Just like we have this Vasudeva leper. He says both Vasudeva leper as well as Sudama Vipra in our Bhagavatam. Sudama, who was the friend of Krishna, he goes to beg. I mean, he begs some handful of chipped rice, and he goes to Krishna's palace. And there in Dwarka, he doesn't ask Krishna anything, and he comes back. And when he's coming back, he's thinking, "Who am I?" He's thinking about his fortune. Uh, Actually, one should be so grateful to develop humility. If we are not grateful, we cannot develop humility or any good quality. He was feeling so grateful. He was thinking, thank God I didn't ask for anything. Thank God and who am I? He says, I am just Brahma Bandhu. I'm just the relative of a Brahmana. And who is Krishna? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what great fortune did I receive? So his humility intensified after the experience that he had seeing Krishna. Similarly, you have this case of Vasudeva leper. What happened was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, and he was thinking that, oh, now hereafter the world will celebrate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by my name. They will tell the deliverer of the Vasudeva leper is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is going to be terrible. I don't want the Lord to be glorified by my name, right? I will get so much pride in it. So Vasudev Leper was lamenting that now I will become proud, that everyone will say, oh, you are the recipient of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Then tomorrow I will start thinking I am the greatest of all devotees, right? Little mercy we receive from the Lord or from the Lord's associate or from spiritual master, we think we are very important. Oh, my spiritual master came to see me. Oh, the Lord, he gave darshan to me. So automatically our pride increases. Actually, our humility should increase. Like Sudama Vipra, our humility should increase. But it becomes reverse. Our pride increases. So why did we say this? So Narada Muni, because now Narada has seen the Lord, he's got darshan of the Lord, he has come till the point of prema. So the Lord was very protective of Narada Muni, very protective. So he says, okay, you cannot see me anymore, and because you're a little immature and you have all these material tinges, so you cannot see me anymore. Thereby, Chakravarti Pad and Srila Prabhupada in this purport, both of them, they say that this was to increase his humility. And then also, it is to increase Narada Muni's hankering. See, because material service has no satiation. Sometimes in this world, we do a little bit and then we are satisfied. Okay, I'm done. I'm very satisfied. But then in service, in devotional service, there is no question of limit. It always keeps increasing. When we go to the spiritual world, also, our service keeps increasing. There is no question of stagnancy. All that will not come. At least desire to do more will keep coming. That is the very nature of bhakti. When Narada go in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narada, he travels and he tries to find the devotee who has received the greatest mercy of Krishna. So he begins by talking to a Brahmin in Prayag who's worshipping a Shalagram Shila. Then he meets a South Indian king, and then he moves on and he goes to Indra. Then he goes to Lord Shiva, he goes to Prahalad, and so on, so on and so forth. He goes to so many Hanuman, Pandavas, Uddhava, Gopis. So, like that, he goes everywhere. And then finally, after experiencing all this and understanding the greatness of the Gopis, Krishna comes and meets him. Actually, Krishna meets him, and at that time, Krishna he asks Narada, take some boons. That's when Narada says, give me a boon that this bhakti that I'm feeling should never be satiated. One should always ask for more. One should keep hankering for more. That should be the nature of practicing bhakti. And Krishna laughs and he says, what kind of boon is that? That is the very nature of bhakti. You don't have to ask a boon for that. The nature of bhakti is that you will not find satisfaction. That is the nature of bhakti. Okay. So anyway, here, material service has satiation, whereas the spiritual service of the Lord has neither satiation nor end, but the devotee's hankering is increased. A devotee will hanker to render service, and that hankering has to be increased by these words of the Lord. So the Lord said like that, and his hankering increased. I want to see the Lord again. I want to see the Lord again. So the Lord refused to show himself again. Very nice. That's what these are the two reasons why the Lord speaks like that, and he refuses to show himself. So he says, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Now, Prabhupada says in the purport, this Supreme Personality of Godhead, of course, he is described in the Bhagavad Gita, Paramdha, what is it? Bhagavad Gita 10:12. It says, Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. Oh, did the sharing get paused? Yeah, it got paused. Something happened, red light. Okay. Resume. You're able to see my screen, right? Okay. So Krishna, he is described in the Bhagavad Gita as being the purest of all pure. And there is no trace of material inability in this person, meaning there are no traces of tinge of materiality in Krishna. And no one can approach him in a material way. So when one begins devotional service, he has to first and foremost thing get out of the modes of passion and ignorance. Okay, so how does one get out of the modes of passion and ignorance? First, he has to be freed from two terrible, terrible enemies that we have within us. One is lust, kama, and the other is lobha, covetousness. So these two enemies we have to fight. We have to be freed from the desires of sense gratification and avarice for sense gratification. So there are two things. One must be freed from the desires for sense satisfaction and avarice for sense gratification. Both should not be there. Uh, Actually, there is this interesting commentary in the Sudama Charitra itself, that in the case of Sudama, Krishna, he gave him a lot of wealth, a lot of wealth. And why does Krishna sometimes give a lot of wealth to a great devotee? Won't that wealth become a distraction for the devotee? And then the commentator comes and says that for a person who's neutral, okay, whether the wealth is there or not, it doesn't distract him, because he doesn't have too much attraction, nor does he have disgust or distaste towards it. For such a person, Krishna, he just gives because he knows that the devotee will not misuse it. So a person must be freed from desires for sense satisfaction and avarice for sense gratification. So both should be there. So that is the balanced nature, and that means a person is in the mode of goodness. Okay, but then we saw that one should be freed from passion and ignorance, but one should also become freed from the mode of goodness. Because at the end of the day, goodness is also a material mode. One should strive for pure goodness. That is what one should strive. Now, this Narada Muni, he was in the forest, and forest was a very good place for the meditation. It was a quiet and calm, nice place. Now, this forest itself is in the mode of goodness. Okay, here Prabhupada says there is no need for a person to go in search of mode of goodness. It is not needed. You do not have to go to the forest to attain spiritual perfection. Hmm? You actually, the point is, the best method is that one should live in a place where the form of the Lord is worshipped. That is the place of pure goodness. See, we don't have to either take goodness or passion or ignorance. All the three are not needed. Actually, you should go in search of a place that is in the mode of pure goodness, and that is the place where the Lord is worshipped. So, the temple of the Lord is a transcendental place, whereas the forest is a materially good habitation. Hmm? Therefore, a neophyte devotee like us, we are recommended to start with devotional service in the temple, doing archana, even in our homes, instead of going to the forest to search the Lord. So, what happens is sometimes we become very satisfied and we become entangled in the mode of goodness. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says the mode of goodness, the bait in the mode of goodness is happiness. What happens? A person who's in the mode of goodness tends to be very happy, and that itself makes him very satisfied, and he doesn't endeavor to reach out to spiritual satisfaction. Okay, so that happiness itself binds him in this world. So Prabhupada is telling mode of goodness is also not needed, mode of passion is also not needed, and ignorance is also not needed. Go to a transcendental place, go to a place where there is a temple, and that way you can train yourself and you can become free from material hankerings. So here he says, in this life, see, Narada Muni in the previous life, he went to the forest, he did meditation, everything fine. But then in this life, what is Narada Muni doing? When he got a transcendental body as Narada, he's going from one place to the other. He goes to Vaikunta, he goes to Gandharva Loka, Kinnara Loka, and what does he do? His job is to convert everyone to become devotees. He engaged so many devotees like Prahalad, Dhruva, and so many others in the transcendental service of the Lord. So, Prabhupada is telling, actually, devotees like Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Vargas, they all follow in the footsteps of Narada and Prahalad. And what should we do? What is it that we take from the story of Narada? Our learning point should not be go to the forest and meditate. Rather, the learning point is that we should spend our time, in thinking about the Lord, in singing the glories of the Lord, in chanting the holy names of the Lord, and in hearing about the Lord. So we should follow in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada, Prahlad, and others. And such a preaching process is transcendental to all material qualities. So this is what Prabhupada has to say, that yes, here in the previous was actually very nicely it is mentioned about the forest and all that, that he went to the forest, and it was a beautiful place, and there the Lord, he revealed himself. He was again and again trying to see, Narada Muni was again and again trying to see the form of the Lord in the forest, in a very beautiful place. See, when the conditions were great, but because it was an artificial attempt, and the Lord hadn't decided to reveal himself, he could not really see the Lord. So these are some thoughts that Srila Prabhupada has written, and these are the words of Sri, the Supreme Lord, when he tells that you will not be seeing me again. And did we do this? We have to do verse number 22, right? Yeah, 22. Sakridyaddarshitam rupam etat kamayate anagha matkama shanakai sadhu sarvan muchyati hrichayan. Translation, someone?
O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires.
Beautiful, right? So he very clearly says, this is just to increase your desire for me. That's why I'm doing this, to increase your humility and increase your desire for me. Because what happens, the more we hanker for Krishna, the more we become free from material desires. And Prabhupada says, who can be vacant of desires? Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, can you stop working? Can you stop having desires? It's not possible. We are not a dead stone. We have desires, but then our working, thinking, feeling, willing, all this should be dovetailed in the service of Krishna. When a person thinks, feels, wills materially, we become materially entangled. But if we think, feel, and will for the service of the Lord, then we become free from material entanglement. So it is just a matter of consciousness where we are focusing. If we are focusing materially in our thinking, feeling, and willing, then we'll get entangled. If we focus spiritually, then we become freed from that material entanglement. So, the more a person is engaged in loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. It is very addictive, right? Everybody will agree. Devotional service, hearing Harikatha, all this is very addictive. You can't stop. You just want to hanker more and more for it. That is the very transcendental nature of the godly service, devotional service. Material service has satiation, but transcendental service, there is no end, there is no satiation. That is the very nature. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. Therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in a service because his service and his person are identical. So, if we desire to see the Lord and we desire to serve the Lord, both are actually one and the same. So, we desire to serve the Lord. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also says, right? We don't desire to see the Lord, we should serve in a way that Krishna desires to see us. That's what he says. So then the Lord will give us proper direction, how it has to be done. He will guide us and he will reveal himself to us. So actually, there was no material desire in Narada. Prabhupada is telling just to increase his intense desire. The Lord was by the law, the Lord's advised him like this. So, two things, one is to increase his desire, and one is to increase his humility. These are the two reasons given by the Acharyas. Why the Lord said, that's it, I'm leaving, I'm not going to see you again. Okay, and also there are other reasons that we discussed earlier. There is only so much that a sadhaka deha can handle. Okay. Now we'll go on to 22. No, this is 23, right? So we'll go on to 23. 23 to 25 is a separate section. This 23 to 25 section is going to be the glories of devotional service as spoken by the Lord himself. The Lord glorifies devotional service to Narada Muni. Okay, from verses 20 to 22, we saw how Narada was instructed by the Lord and he was consoled by the Lord. But now the Lord is going to speak about the glories of devotional service. So let's see what he says about devotional service. 23. सत्सेवया अधिगहायपि जातमयी दृढमतिः हित्वा अवद्यम् इमं लोकं गन्तामद् जनतामसि. Sorry, my mouse is moving a lot. Yeah. So now, translation, anybody?
By service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. Hare Krishna.
Satsevaya. Satsevaya means service of the absolute truth. Okay. Sat, Krishna is also Sat. He is eternal. He is He's the absolute, right? So when you do seva towards Krishna, that seva becomes eternal. So by service to the absolute truth, even for a few days, you don't have to do for too long, just for a few days, what happens to the devotee? The devotee becomes very fixed in intelligence, and he is getting benefit not only in this world, but in the next life also. He becomes an associate of the Supreme Lord. He attains the supreme abode of the Lord. So, Prabhupada says, serving the absolute truth means rendering service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How? Under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Just like when Narada Muni was meditating, it was very clearly mentioned that Narada followed the instructions of the Bhakti Vedantas and he did it under their guidance. Similarly, here also, when Krishna is telling Narada Muni about the glories of devotional service, he's telling, yes, if you do devotional service, even for a few days, you can attain firm and fixed intelligence in me. But how you should do that devotional service? That devotional service should be done under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So this bona fide spiritual master is a transparent via medium between the neophyte devotee and the Supreme Lord. Because we neophytes, we have no ability to approach the Supreme Lord directly. Our senses are imperfect. Okay, our capabilities are not great. Therefore, under the direction of the spiritual master, we become trained in bhakti, we become trained in devotional service. And by such training, even for some days, even within a few days, the devotee, he gets proper intelligence in transcendental service. And it leads him to, at the end of his life, to actually enter the spiritual world and become liberated and become one of the associates of the Lord. So here, Prabhupada emphasizes so much on taking shelter of a spiritual master. If you really want to perfect your life, if you really want to get practice bhakti nicely and get liberated in one lifetime itself, it is possible only by the guidance and shelter of a spiritual master. Because if a spiritual master recommends, then Krishna cannot refuse. So that is the power of the spiritual master. So Krishna is telling him, even for a few days you practice devotional service, you'll become fixed in intelligence and eventually you will become my associate. So this is the glories of devotional service as spoken by Krishna. And let's see what else he said. Matirmayi nibhaddheyam na vipadyeta karhichit prajasarga nirodhepi smritischa mad anugrahat. Translation.
Intelligence engaged in mind
Go ahead.
cannot be thwarted at any time. Even at the time of creation as well as at the time of annihilation, your remembrance will continue by my mercy.
Krishna is telling him, your remembrance will continue by my mercy. Remember, Vyasdev asked him a question. When did he ask this question? He asked this question in verse number 4. Time destroys everything. But how did you remember that which happened prior to this day of Brahma? So Krishna is telling, your remembrance will continue by my mercy. This boon was given by Krishna himself. And he gives this boon to Narada Muni, telling that your intelligence is fixed in me. So since your intelligence is fixed in me, it will not be thwarted at any point in time. It will not reduce at any point in time. Especially when a devotee has attained the point of prema, his intelligence will be fixed on Krishna very, very heavily, and his remembrance of Krishna will never reduce. Even if he has to, whatever his situation may be, even if he has to take a birth again, he will never forget Krishna. He will remember Krishna from day one because his intelligence is so well fixed. So Krishna is giving this assurance. Your intelligence is engaged in my devotion, so it will never reduce. Even at the time of creation as well as the time of annihilation, even after this kalpa is over, in the next kalpa also, you will remember me by my mercy. Prabhupada in the purport, he says, whatever you do for Krishna, Neha Bikrama Nashoste, whatever you do for Krishna, it will never go in vain. If you stop at 80%, you will continue from 81%. If you stop at 99.99%, you will continue from 100%. Okay. So nothing goes in vain. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternal. Intelligence applied in His service or anything done in His relation is always permanent. Such transcendental service rendered to the Supreme Lord accumulates birth after birth, and when the devotee is fully matured, the total service counted together makes him eligible to enter the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we have earned 100 points, we start from 101. And Krishna doesn't say you have to work it till 100 until you go to 101 in this birth. He says, no, no, no. In your previous birth, you did so much. So you have already gotten all those brownie points. So you can continue from where you left. So that is the mercy of Krishna. So such accumulation of God's service is never vanquished. It increases and it becomes fully matured. This is the mercy of the Lord, and this is the very nature of devotional service. So in these two verses, Krishna is telling how even time factor cannot destroy devotional service. He says, even at the time of creation or annihilation, whatever it may be, devotional service will never be destroyed. And by Krishna's mercy, Narada's memory will continue even at the time of creation and annihilation. So this is the last verse for today. Yes, Param Pavani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, dear Mataji, Pranam. As is a beautiful class, Mataji. So as just you mentioned that the devotional service is never destroyed, and for multiple times when we hear the lecture of Vaishnava Aparad, then like we hear that our devotional our devotion is at stake when we do Vaishnava Aparad. Can you use this undestructible at the same time? It is at stake when we commit aparad.
Yeah. So what happens is when we are committing aparadh, we are losing taste for devotional service. So you can say that temporarily there appears to be some hurdles. But then whatever you have accrued, there is no question of minus of what you have accrued. Okay, there are hurdles and it is difficult to proceed. Okay, there is difficult to progress. You lose taste. But whatever you have accumulated, accrued, that stays. But only thing is, where is your progression? You have some hindrances. You're losing taste. Nothing is permanent, Mataji. Even if it's aparad, it's not permanent. Somehow or the other, Krishna will give us the intelligence to go and apologize and things will move on. Okay. So you don't have to blame yourself or punish yourself too hard. The process is very forgiving. Okay.
Mataji, once we seek apologies to the person, whether or not they forgive us or not, can we regain the taste back?
Can you say that again? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Sorry, Mataji. So, if the person forgives us or no, irrespective of their action, if we seek forgiveness, is that enough?
Yeah. You have to go seek forgiveness. And if that's so called, because a Vaishnava will never hold grudge. First and foremost thing, quality of a Vaishnava is forgiveness. If the quote unquote Vaishnava is holding grudge, then there is a problem in the definition of Vaishnava. So, as far as you are concerned, if you are sincerely apologizing and asking for forgiveness, that is fine. Okay. And the Vaishnava will, yeah, the Vaishnava will forgive. I mean, what else will a Vaishnava do? A Vaishnava will forgive. That is the nature of a Vaishnava. Okay.
Mataji, how to seek forgiveness from Nama Prabhu? Like Harinam Prabhu, when we chant and commit offense. Like I'm talking about myself. Like when I chant and commit offenses to holy name, for example, not being attentive.
If that is happening, the only solution given is we strive not to commit the same mistake, and we chant you chant more, but you chant in the association of advanced Vaishnavas. That is the solution. So when you chant and hear the Harinam from advanced Vaishnavas, the purification again restarts. So you should chant in the association of more devotees who are very advanced, and that way our chanting can purify better further.
Thank you, Mataji. Please accept our humble obeisances.
Yeah, the last verse for today. एतवत् उक्त्वोपरराम तन्महद् भूतं नाभो लिङ्गमालिङ्गमीश्वरम् अहं च तस्मै महता महीयसे सिरीष्ण अवनामं विदधे अनुकम्पिता. Translation.
Then that supreme authority, personified by sound and unseen by eyes, but most wonderful, stopped speaking, feeling a sense of gratitude. I offered my obeisances unto him, bowing my head.
So beautiful, right? See, there's qualities of Narada Muni. He felt a sense of gratitude. That is extremely important. Sometimes we don't value what we have received, like I was mentioning. Narada Muni, now it might appear, okay, the Lord said he's not going to show himself to him. He said, you cannot see me now. You are not pakwa enough. You're not properly mature enough. Uh, but Narada was feeling so much gratitude in spite of all that. Why? Because the Lord, he was speaking to Narada, he was enthusing Narada, and Narada Muni was feeling extreme gratitude. See how merciful the Lord is. He revealed himself to me. Yes, he's telling that I might not see him more, but then so much itself is immense gratitude from the Lord. So he says, with the feeling that sense of gratitude, I paid my obeisance unto him, bowing my head. So here Prabhupada says the Supreme Personality of Godhead was not seen but heard does not make any difference. But only heard does not make any difference. Whether you see the Lord or you hear the Lord, it really doesn't make any difference. This was very satisfying to Narada Muni. The name, form, glories, everything are non-different from the Lord. Whether you hear from the Lord or you see the Lord, it's not a big difference. The personality of Godhead produced the four Vedas by his breathing, and he is seen and realized through the transcendental sound of the Vedas. Similarly, the Bhagavad Gita is the representation of the Lord, and there is no difference in his identity. So, the conclusion is that the Lord can be seen and heard by persistent chanting of the transcendental sound. So, when we are hearing the Bhagavad Gita, also we should remember, hearing or reading the Bhagavad Gita, we should remember that it is as good as seeing the Lord. We see the Lord through the verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We see and perceive the Lord through the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Even if the Lord is not there personally in front of us, still we can perceive the Lord through the same sound vibrations that Narada Muni had to perceive the Lord. The same sound vibrations is seen in the form of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. It is indeed the sound representation of the Lord. And like how Param Pavani Mataji was asking, Harinam Prabhu, the vibration of the holy names is also non-different from the Supreme Lord. So just by chanting the transcendental sound vibrations of Krishna's name, Krishna's form will become manifest to us someday. So the name, form, glories, sound vibrations of the Lord are all non-different. So what happened so far today? Today we saw how Narada, he meditated and he had the vision of the Lord, Then we saw the instructions of the Lord, and the Lord consoled Narada Muni, and he told him, "You cannot see me again, but you will soon be with me, and your memory will not be vanquished because you have reached such an advanced stage of bhakti." Then the Lord glorifies bhakti, and he says that this service to the absolute truth, even if it is done for a short period of time, it cannot be taken away. A time factor cannot destroy it. And this Supreme Lord, by his sound vibrations, unseen by Narada Muni's eyes, blessed him. Narada Muni felt immense gratitude and he bowed his head. So, this is what we have seen. In Thursday's class, we will see how Narada follows the instructions given by the Lord until his death. So imagine until his death, he is not able to see the form of the Lord again. But still, he follows. He's such a sincere devotee. He follows the instructions of the Lord till death. This is a big deal. Actually, he knows he is not going to see the Lord again. Okay? The question raised will be, does he have the enthusiasm to continue then? The answer is yes. He follows the instructions. The Lord has given him instructions. That is a sincere devotee. If the Lord gives him instructions, he follows. So he follows until death. And then what happened after death? After 1,000 yuga cycles, Brahma wakes up and he becomes the transcendental spaceman. And Narada concludes his instructions to Vyasadeva and he departs. So that will be the next class. And hopefully next class, I think Mataji can finish because the purports are quite short in these sections. So she'll finish next on Thursday. Okay. So we'll end here. Any questions, comments, realizations? Please go ahead. It's Sankari Kaur Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my most respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. My respectful pranams to all the present Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, I was just thinking about this whole Darshanam episode that we witnessed today. Pardon me. So I was also thinking that the same applies, or the same could apply to our japa also. Because that's what Prabhupada is also saying, that there's no difference in hearing the sound of the Lord and getting his direct darshan. So the way Narad Muni was in his previous life, the way he was so steadfastly meditating with all his attention, if we can also somehow bring ourselves at least 1/10 of that sincerity to our japa, we would be able to hear the names properly. And that's what Prabhupada says, just hear the syllables that you're chanting. And so that is like darshanam, because there is no difference in the form and the sound of the Lord. So that's the instruction right there, that how we can get this darshan almost every single day if we just put in a little bit of sincerity from our side. So just praying to all the Vaishnavas here, including you, Mataji, pray for us so that we can at least get to that point where we can just control our mind, at least for some time, and put some sincerity to our chanting. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And you also please pray for us. Let's all pray for each other. That's something, at least like you said, at least a little attention to the holy name. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Parampavani Mataji.
Sorry, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Mataji, as you were mentioning that after Lord disappeared from the vision of Narad Muni in his heart, and then Narad Muni continues to follow the Bhakti Bhakti, and you're mentioning that as Lord told that in this birth he will not be able to see Lord anymore, but still he maintains the enthusiasm to do bhakti. Mataji, sometimes like from there from this in these perspectives, like I know for my sure for myself that uh, I will take many births in forward to perfect myself. But it, how can I take in keep myself enthusiastic from this point of view where Narada Muni left off, is and like what excerpt I can draw from this pastimes and apply to myself to keep that enthusiasm, because I know I will take many births, to perfect myself. Is that clear, Margaret, to my question?
So your question is, how will you maintain the enthusiasm?
Yes, Mataji, from this instance of Narad Muni keeping enthusiasm.
This instance of Narada Muni, how he maintains his enthusiasm. Narada follows the Lord's instructions until death. Narada says, this Mataji will cover on Thursday. I'm running into her portion. So he repeatedly chants the holy names of the Lord, ignoring all formalities of the material world. He remains humble and non-envious. These are some clues. You have to remain humble. You have to be non-envious. You should continuously chant the holy names to remain enthusiastic. Okay.
Got you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Dhanyavad
And I'm sure
pranam to
Mataji
you.
will come up with lots more insights from all the commentaries and she will tell you a grand answer. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dhanyavad pranam to you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Okay. So if there are no other questions, we can end. It's already time. And we'll meet on Thursday. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhubhyevicha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, all glory to the assembled. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Mataji ki
Shri
jai.
Prabhupada.